Okay, so I need to tell you something, and I'm not trying to be dramatic here, but tomorrow is not just another day, like, at all. Tomorrow, February 17th, we're experiencing a solar eclipse in Aquarius, and I know you've probably heard about eclipses before, but this is different. This is happening at the absolute final degree of Aquarius, which in astrology is called the anaretic degree, and what that means is this is a completion point, an ending, a cosmic circuit breaker. And here's what's really getting my attention. This eclipse is happening on the exact same day as the Lunar New Year. We're entering the year of the Firehorse, so we have this massive celestial reset button being pressed at the exact moment a whole new energetic cycle is beginning. The timing of this, I don't think it's a coincidence. But here's what I really need you to understand, and this is what almost nobody is talking about. I believe 3 specific things from your past are going to disappear. Not fade away gradually, not slowly drift out of your life, disappear. And if you've been feeling like something is already shifting, like pieces of your life are already starting to loosen and fall away, stay with me on this one. There's a very specific reason that's happening, and I'm going to break down exactly what's going on. Because right now, you might be standing at the edge of the biggest personal reset you've experienced in years, and most people have absolutely no idea what's about to hit them. The eclipse isn't playing by normal rules. So here's the thing most people don't realize about this particular eclipse. It's not following the usual pattern. This is an annular eclipse, which means we're going to see what's called a ring of fire in the sky. The moon doesn't completely block out the sun. Instead, you get this rim of brilliant sunlight surrounding the dark lunar silhouette. And symbolically, that's huge, because I think what's happening here is that the core, the ego, the material attachment to who you think you are, is being obscured. But the spirit, that essential fire, that ring of light, it remains. This is about burning off everything that's not essential, leaving only the truth of who you actually are. And then there's the degree placement. This eclipse is happening at 28 degrees and 56 minutes of Aquarius. That's basically the 29th degree. In astrology, the 29th degree is known as the degree of karmic culmination. It's the degree of crisis, urgency, and critical mass. It's the point where something has reached its absolute limit and can no longer continue in its current form. So when an eclipse happens at this degree, I believe the universe is saying, time's up. Whatever you've been dragging along with you, whatever patterns you've been stuck in, whatever version of yourself you've been clinging to, it ends tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Tomorrow. And if that sounds intense, it is, because this eclipse is also forming a tight square with Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is the planet of sudden change, disruption, liberation. It's been moving through Taurus for years now, shaking up our sense of security, our values, our material world, and tomorrow it's directly challenging this eclipse. What does that mean for you? Expect the unexpected. Expect sudden realizations. Expect the ground beneath your feet to shift in ways you didn't see coming. This is the kind of energy that wakes you up at 3 in the morning with a lightning bolt realization about your life. The kind that makes you say, I can't do this anymore, and actually mean it this time. The Firehorse is here to burn it all down. And then, as if all of that wasn't enough, we have the Firehorse. Tomorrow marks the beginning of the year of the Firehorse in the Chinese zodiac. And this is a 60-year cycle, which means the last time this happened was 1966. And if you know anything about 1966, you know that was a year of massive cultural revolution, total upheaval, the breaking of every traditional boundary you can think of. The Firehorse doesn't do slow transitions. It doesn't ease you into change. It's high velocity. It's destructive creativity. It's the kind of energy that says, we're doing this now, and we're doing it fast. And here's what really gets me. The Lunar New Year usually opens with celebration, right? In 2026, it opens with a solar eclipse. That is incredibly rare. And I think what that's telling us is that this new year isn't beginning with a whimper. It's beginning with a bang. The eclipse is acting like a starting gun, and the Firehorse is ready to run. But here's the catch, and this is important. You cannot ride the Firehorse while carrying the baggage of the past. You can't gallop forward at warp speed while dragging dead weight behind you. That's why I believe the universe is forcibly removing certain things from your life right now, not to punish you, to free you. Something in you already knows what's coming. Have you been feeling it? That strange restlessness, that sense that something big is about to happen, because I've been feeling this myself, and I've been hearing from so many people who are experiencing the exact same thing. Maybe you've been waking up in the middle of the night with this weird anticipatory energy. Maybe you've been unable to focus, like your mind is already trying to process something that hasn't happened yet. Maybe you've been feeling this quiet urgency, like you need to make a decision, take action, do something, but you're not quite sure what. I don't think that's anxiety. I think that's your soul preparing for the shift, because here's what I've learned about eclipses. Your body knows before your mind does. Your energy field picks up on these cosmic changes days, sometimes weeks in advance. You start feeling the rumble before the earthquake hits. And right now, if you're feeling off balance, if things have felt unstable or uncertain lately, if you've been questioning everything, that's not a breakdown. I believe that's the pre-shock. That's your system getting ready to let go of what it's been holding on to for way too long, because tomorrow, the letting go isn't optional anymore. You're about to lose your mask, and that's actually a good thing. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing that's going to disappear, and this one is big. I think you're about to lose your performative identity, the mask you've been wearing, the version of yourself that you created to fit in, to be accepted, to get approval from other people. The sun in astrology represents the ego, the conscious sense of I, and when the sun gets eclipsed, that ego gets temporarily blotted out. But this isn't happening in just any sign. This is happening in Aquarius, the sign of the collective, of social groups, of how we present ourselves to the tribe. So what I believe is happening here is that the social ego, the identity you constructed to belong, is being deleted. The version of yourself that performed for an audience, whether that's on social media or in real life. The labels that no longer fit. The roles you've been playing that don't match who you actually are anymore. And here's where it gets specific. Some of you are going to find yourselves suddenly expelled from groups or communities you thought were your people, or you might voluntarily walk away from a tribe that once felt like family. Maybe you'll realize that the good child, the corporate climber, the fixer, whatever identity you've been carrying, it doesn't fit anymore. And when you try to put it back on, it's going to feel like wearing clothes that are 3 sizes too small. This isn't failure. This isn't you losing yourself. I really believe this is you finding yourself, because the true self, the one that's been buried under all those layers of performance, is finally getting space to breathe. Now, am I saying this is 100% going to be comfortable? No, I can't say that. Losing your identity, even a false one, can feel terrifying. But I think what's on the other side of that fear is freedom. Real freedom. The kind where you stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what do I actually want? And if you've been feeling like you don't recognize yourself lately, like the person you used to be is fading away, that's not a crisis. That's the chrysalis cracking open, because the butterfly can't emerge until the cocoon is destroyed. The karmic relationship is about to exit your life. The second thing that's disappearing, a relationship. And I know that might sound scary, but stay with me on this one, because the relationship that's leaving isn't the one you think you need. It's the one that's been keeping you stuck. Here's what's happening astrologically. On the exact same day as the eclipse, Venus is aligning with the North Node in Pisces. Venus represents love, relationships, values. The North Node represents destiny, the path forward. And when they come together, it's like the universe is saying, this is where you're meant to go now. But here's the thing about the North Node. By mathematical necessity, when Venus aligns with the North Node, it's also opposing the South Node. The South Node represents the past, old patterns, karmic debts. And when Venus opposes it, that means certain relationships have to be released. So what kind of relationships are we talking about? I think these are the karmic debt relationships, the ones that existed primarily to teach you a hard lesson. The ones held together by obligation rather than genuine love. The transactional bonds where you had to be useful to be valued. Maybe it's the partner you stayed with because you felt like you owed them something. Maybe it's the friendship where you were always the one giving, never receiving. Maybe it's that person you kept trying to fix, thinking if you just loved them hard enough they'd change. And here's what I've come to understand about karmic relationships. Once the lesson is learned, the teacher disappears. Not because they're bad people, not because anyone did anything wrong, but because the contract is complete, the debt is paid. And holding on to it beyond that point is like trying to stay in a classroom after you've already graduated. I also think this Venus North Node alignment is dissolving fantasies, especially the fantasy of the one that got away. You know what I mean? That person from your past who you've built up in your mind, who you think about when things get hard, who represents this whole alternate life you could have lived. That fantasy, I believe it's dissolving into the ether, not to hurt you, but to free you, because as long as you're holding on to the ghost of what could have been, you can't fully show up for what actually is. And if you've been feeling like a relationship is already ending, like you're already pulling away or they're pulling away from you, that's not coming out of nowhere. That's the eclipse energy already at work. And honestly, I think you should trust it. Your safety net is about to vanish and you're going to fly anyway. The third thing that's disappearing is perhaps the scariest, but it's also, I believe, the most liberating. Your external safety net is going away, the crutch you've been leaning on, the backup plan, the thing that allowed you to stay small, stay safe, stay stuck. Here's what's happening in the sky. Saturn just entered Aries on February 13th. Saturn is the planet of structure, responsibility, hard reality. For the past couple years, it's been in Pisces, which is this dreamy, nebulous, sometimes confusing energy. And for some people, that confusion actually provided a weird kind of comfort, like, I can't move forward because I don't know what to do. I can't make a decision because everything is unclear. But Saturn in Aries, that's a completely different energy. Aries is the warrior. Aries is action, courage, self-reliance. Saturn in Aries is the universe saying, time to stand on your own 2 feet, time to stop waiting for someone to save you. And then, on February 20th, just 3 days after this eclipse, Saturn meets Neptune at the very first degree of Aries. Neptune is the planet of dissolution, of dreams, of illusion. So when Saturn, structure, meets Neptune, dissolution, at the beginning point of the entire zodiac, what I think is happening is this. The old structures we thought were solid are being revealed as illusions, or they're literally being washed away. The job you thought was stable might end, the financial support you were counting on might disappear, the person you thought would always be there to catch you might step back, and I know how that sounds. I know how terrifying that can feel. But here's what I really need you to hear. When the safety net disappears, something else happens. The fear of falling also disappears because you realize you're not going to fall, you're going to fly. This is about the universe forcing you to activate your own power, your own Mars, your own Aries energy, the part of you that says, I can do this myself. I don't need anyone to save me. I am the one I've been waiting for. And if you've been feeling this already, if support systems are already crumbling, if you're already being pushed to stand alone, I think that's preparation. The universe is training you for independence before the Firehorse takes off running. Because once that energy hits, you need to be able to move fast, and you can't move fast while you're still clinging to the old world. Tomorrow, the screen goes black. So here's what I think is going to happen tomorrow, and I want you to really visualize this with me. The eclipse reaches its peak at 7 in the morning. For a few minutes, the sun is obscured. The light dims. The world goes quiet. And in that moment, in that brief window of darkness, I believe there's a void, a pause, a cosmic breath. The old operating system crashes. The old timeline ends. And for just a second, there's nothing. Just pure potential, pure emptiness, pure possibility. This is the reset point. This is where the three things I've been talking about, the mask, the karmic relationship, the safety net, they don't just fade, they vanish. They're pulled into the void, and when the light comes back, when the sun emerges from behind the moon, you emerge too, but you're not the same person who went into that darkness. The Firehorse enters, the new year begins, and the version of you that existed before February 17th, 2026, it doesn't exist anymore. It can't, because there's no room for it in this new timeline. And I know this probably sounds really intense, maybe even scary, but here's what I want you to remember. This isn't happening to you. This is happening for you. Every single thing that's being removed from your life right now is making space for something better, something more aligned, something that actually fits the person you're becoming. The Sabian symbol knew all along. Okay, so there's this thing in astrology called Sabian symbols. Each degree of the zodiac has a symbol, an image that describes the energy of that specific point. And I always find it fascinating to look these up because they're weirdly accurate. The Sabian symbol for 28 degrees Aquarius, where this eclipse is happening, is a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. I mean, come on. You can't make this stuff up. A butterfly emerging from a chrysalis, that is literally the perfect image for what's happening. The chrysalis, the old structure, the protective shell, the past, has to be completely destroyed for the butterfly to exist. There's no going back into that cocoon. The butterfly doesn't get to keep the safety of that small space. It has to emerge, fully transformed, into a completely new form. And that's you right now. You're the butterfly, the three things disappearing. That's the chrysalis cracking apart. It has to break. It has to shatter, because you've outgrown it. You can't fit in that small space anymore. And yes, emergence is a struggle. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, there's a moment where the butterfly is wet and vulnerable and probably terrified. But then the wings dry, and then it flies. And it never once looks back at that old shell and wishes it could climb back inside. That's what tomorrow is. That's what this eclipse is offering you. Not destruction, metamorphosis. What you need to do right now. Alright, so we've talked about what's happening and why it's happening, but let's talk about what you actually do with this energy. Because I think there are some really practical steps you can take to work with this eclipse instead of against it. First, and this is so important, don't resist what's leaving. If something is falling away from your life right now, let it go. Don't chase it. Don't try to hold on to it. Don't convince yourself that you need to fight for it. If it's leaving, it's supposed to leave. The universe is doing you a favor, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. Second, get really honest with yourself about those three areas. What mask have you been wearing? What identity have you been performing? Where have you been suppressing your true self to fit into a group or gain approval? Write it down if you need to. Name it. Because once you name it, you can release it consciously instead of having it ripped away unconsciously. Same with relationships. Is there a connection in your life that's based on karma, obligation, or transaction rather than genuine love? You know which one it is. Your gut is already telling you. Listen to it. And if you need to have a conversation, have it. If you need to create distance, create it. Honor what's true. And the safety net. This is the hardest one for a lot of people. Where have you been relying on external support to avoid taking responsibility for your own life? Where have you been playing it safe because you're afraid of what would happen if you actually had to stand on your own? What would you do differently if you knew no one was coming to save you? Start doing that, now, before the choice is made for you. Third, set an intention for what you want to call in, because yes, this eclipse is about endings, but it's also about beginnings. The Firehorse year is starting. That's high-velocity creative energy. That's forward momentum. That's the wind at your back. So what do you want to create? What do you want to become? Where do you want to go? The portal is opening tomorrow, and it won't stay open forever. This is your moment to step through. You're not going through this alone. And look, I get it. This is a lot. If you're feeling overwhelmed right now, if you're feeling scared about what's going to change, if you're grieving what's already starting to fall away, all of that is completely valid. You're allowed to feel all of it. But I also want you to know, you're not going through this alone. I'm feeling this too. Everyone watching this video is feeling some version of this. We're all standing at this threshold together. We're all being asked to let go of who we were and become who we're meant to be. And I really believe that the people who are paying attention right now, the people who are willing to work with this energy instead of fighting it, the people who can surrender to the transformation, they're going to come out the other side of this completely different, lighter, freer, more themselves than they've ever been. Because that's what this eclipse is ultimately about. It's not about loss, it's about liberation. It's not about what's being taken away, it's about what you're finally being released from. The bridges are burning behind you, the Firehorse is ready to run, and the version of you that's about to emerge from this cosmic chrysalis, I think they're going to be absolutely incredible. Tomorrow the universe hits reset. Tomorrow the screen goes black so it can reboot. Tomorrow 3 things from your past disappear so your future can finally arrive. Are you ready? All right, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you so much for being here. Seriously, it means the world to me. If this resonated with you and you want to see more content like this, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. And please drop a comment below. I really want to hear what you've been experiencing leading up to this eclipse. What's been shifting for you? What are you letting go of? What are you ready to step into? I read every single comment, and I love connecting with you all. Take care of yourself through this transition, and I'll see you in the next one.